some of the things that I regret from my trip to Japan when I was studying abroad. I went to Japan when I was 17 years old, and at that time in my life I was extremely shy. I had crippling social anxiety, and a lot of my family and friends were extremely surprised that I didn't come home early from my study abroad. They all thought that I was going to come home early because I couldn't handle it. With that being said, the first thing that I regret about my stay in Japan is that I was so socially anxious that I did not want to risk embarrassment at all, and that really hindered my experience. It made me not take any risks. It made me not enjoy a lot of activities because I was too scared that I was going to embarrass myself. Ironically, not taking those risks and having a good time because I thought it would be safe for me to stay away from those risks actually made my experience a lot worse. For example, you remember that video I made about going out to dinner with my classmates? I told them that Japanese bikes were different from American bikes. And in a way that was true, but a bike is a bike. I know how to ride a bike. And I told them that I didn't know how to ride Japanese bikes because I was scared that I was going to embarrass myself. I look back on it now and it's just ridiculous to me. But at that time in my life, I was so scared. Another example is that I went to this bakery with my host father. I didn't quite understand how you ordered your food because it wasn't like you go sit down and someone takes your order. What I think it ended up being was you go and just pick out what you want and you take it to the cashier. But I don't know why, but in my mind it was like so confusing. Again, I look back at it now, I'm just like, why was I so confused? It's like going to a cafeteria or something. You just have a tray, you pick out what you want, and you go take it to the cashier. So ultimately, my host father called my English teacher because I was just so confused at the situation. I don't remember exactly what happened. I think she explained it to me, but I was still like scared for some reason. So he ended up picking out two things, and then we went and sat down. He's like, okay, pick which one you want to eat. And I knew what one of them was, but I didn't know what the other one was. And like, I'm not scared of trying new foods. I'm totally fine with that, and I was then. But for some reason, I just didn't want to pick out which one I wanted to eat. So I told him in English, like, because I didn't know how to say it in Japanese. I told him, you pick. But he couldn't speak English very well, so he didn't understand me. So I tried to like write it out in a translator app, but he still didn't get it. And he just got so frustrated because I was being so dumb. And to this day, I still think about it now. And I think about how frustrated he got and how I made that experience so bad when it could have been awesome. I have a few other examples of me embarrassing myself, trying not to embarrass myself, but I'm not gonna list them all out for you right now. So my ultimate regret of my stay in Japan was not taking risks. Ultimately though, it turned out okay because after my trip to Japan, I realized that I can't keep living my life in this bubble, not wanting to do anything because I was scared that I was going to embarrass myself. So in a way, I'm grateful for that, but I also regret it, so it's kind of a mix-up. My second regret of my stay in Japan was that I really didn't push myself to learn Japanese. Because everyone wanted to speak with me in English, they wanted to like practice their English with me, I found that I was speaking English more than I was speaking Japanese. And the Japanese people are so nice and so accommodating that they didn't want to pressure me into speaking Japanese when they could just speak English with me as best as they could. And as much as I appreciated that, it really didn't help me in learning the language. And I'm not saying it was their fault in any way, because I really could have pushed myself to learn it more. I studied Japanese for 2 years before I went on my trip. And those 2 years, I feel like they helped, but they didn't help as much as I thought they were going to. Because when I got there, I found that I couldn't really speak Japanese. I could understand people pretty well, but I couldn't form sentences properly. And it still confuses me to this day. Sentence structure is so confusing to me. Dang you, conjugation! There was this one time that my neighborhood had this barbecue, I suppose it was. We just kind of all got together and we ate food and it was awesome. But there was this old guy who was talking to me, and he told me that his son could speak English better than I could speak Japanese, and that I should be better at Japanese. And that kind of ticked me off. His son probably has been learning English ever since he was little. I started learning Japanese when I was in high school. So there's a huge gap right there. And second of all, learning languages doesn't come very easily to me. I don't know. I just think this guy had no right to say that. I don't completely blame him though, because I could have been trying a lot harder to learn Japanese. There's my ranting for the day. So I don't have a ton of regrets, luckily. I don't typically regret things. I sometimes think like, oh, I should have done this instead of that, but I mean, I don't think that really counts as a regret. But I hope to go back to Japan and learn Japanese as much as I can and to take all of the risks, and I will have no regrets. If you've been to Japan, write down in the comment section below if you had any regrets and what they were. Let's try our best not to have any regrets this year. Don't forget to follow me on social media. I try to post as often as I can, and writing a post on Instagram or Facebook is a lot less time consuming than making a video, so I will update those more often than I will update my YouTube channel, just so you know. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Mata ne! I just started dancing for no reason because I forgot what I was gonna say.